Hello everyone, welcome back. We're just going to talk about tritone subs today. I've been playing them in the past in videos and saying search for them if you don't know what they are, but may as well just make a video about it. It'll be simpler that way to have it on the channel rather than just constantly saying go look for it if you don't know what it is. So this is going to be very simple. By the end of this you'll be able to play them and solo over them and just understand what they are if you don't know already. So let's start with shell voicings. Let's use the key of C major. You're going to want to do this in all 12 keys. I should just put a big old text across the screen for almost everything I'm talking about. It has to be in 12 keys to be useful for you in actual practical playing situations. So D minor 7 is 2, G7 is 5, C major is 1, C major 7, and let's do 6 as well, A7. 2, 5, 1, 6. So this is the tritone substitution. Let me go back to the 5 chord for a second. So this, I'm not going to play the root for a second. I just played this, so your ear is probably still hearing this when I do this. But now, we're changing the root, and that's the tritone substitution. So they function the same way, the tritone sub and the 5 chord function to bring you back to the 1 chord. The chord tones that are in these are the 3rd and 7th of the normal 5 chord. Those pitches are present in the tritone sub as well as 3rds and 7ths, except they're swapped. So let me explain that. So we have let's do G7, root, 3rd, 7th, tritone sub, root, 7th, 3rd. So the 3rd becomes the 7th, and the 7th becomes the 3rd between these 2 chords. And that's why it works. We're used to hearing this, right? As our normal cadence in like any kind of music. But it's the same cadence. Our ear is so used to hearing the voice leading and these resolutions, particularly of the 7th of the 5 chord going to the 3rd of the 1 chord. And when we get that with the tritone sub, our ear just takes over and we're already used to hearing that. And we can accept that new root as acting like the 5 chord. So last thing about the actual chord part of it, let's talk about the chord tones in relation to the original 5 chord. So our tritone sub in relationship to the low G. The root of the tritone sub is the flat 5 or the sharp 4, sharp 11 of the original 5 chord, and that's the definition of a tritone, right? A sharp 11 or sharp 4, same thing, or a flat 5, that is a tritone. So we know that's included, of course. The 5th of the tritone sub is the flat 9 of the original 5 chord, and that's it. The 3rd and 7th we already talked about. They're the other 2 tones. So if we put all those together in relationship to the G chord, it would be it would have a couple different names. It could be G7 flat 9 sharp 11, which, how can we do this all like that? We have the sharp 11, the flat 9, and then our 7th and 3rd. But we could also name it as G7 flat 5 flat 9. And I talked about this in the last video, how the voicings are the same even though the theory behind the included notes is different between those 2 chord voicings. On guitar we don't have as many, we can't choose as many notes as a pianist would and play the root, the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, and the 11th like it should be theoretically in an 11th chord of any kind. So that's the explanation. This is really simple on guitar because all we have to think about is 2 minor 7, flat 2 7, 1 major 7. This works for minor 2 5s as well. So 2 half diminished, flat 2 is the same. With the minor 1 chord. can add upper extensions on the tritone sub, like the ninth here. Let's go back to major for a second so I can do all ninths. So C major, D minor 9, D flat 9, C major 9. You can alter the notes in the tritone sub if you want to. If we did like sharp 5 with the sharp 5 here, the altered notes of a tritone substitution will sound like normal notes, normal upper extensions from the original 5 chord. So what I mean by that is here where we have the, let me voice it like this. The sharp 5 of the tritone substitution is the ninth of the normal 5 chord. So if you alter a note in the tritone substitution, it will sound like a normal chord tone of the 5 chord. That's pretty much it. I didn't, you know, that's the explanation. So in terms of soloing over it, it's also very simple. I mean, it's just like soloing over anything else. You want to be able to hear it in your head and create a melody and you know, use the melody of the song as well and all that stuff. But just as a quick example, if you haven't soloed over this before, one way you can approach it is by finding a phrase that you would play over the 2 chord, move it back chromatically, just like you would move the chord back chromatically to the flat 2, the tritone sub, and then back again to the 1, and you just take your melodic phrase, move it back again. Let's do just like a scale fragment. So let's do and maybe in that case the sharp 4 or what did I do? Let me simplify it. So 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5. So 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Let's fill it out with that kind of stereotypical, going back down after that first part that we just did with flat 3, 2, 1. So, sorry that I should have talked as I was doing that. Arpeggios, that was kind of what I was thinking in my head. I'm just playing minor 7 arpeggio off the 2 chord, dominant 7 arpeggio off the flat 2 off the tritone sub, and then whatever you want on the 1 chord. So the idea is that whatever you play on the 2 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, whatever, on the 1 chord. So you're taking whatever the idea is on the 2 chord, moving it back a half step, and then instead of playing literally the same thing, we have to have a major third because it's a dominant 7th chord and not a minor 7th chord. So it would not be this, it would be excuse me. So whatever phrase you're playing, you can just move it back and then adjust the third to be a major third on the tritone sub instead of a minor third. I mean, there's so many things you can talk about with how to apply this with soloing. I just wanted to show that guitar-specific example of being able to take that phrase, move it back again. It's a big advantage that we have, you know, as guitarists, or electric bass. Even on upright bass, it's useful, even though we don't have frets on that. String players, we have some things harder than other instruments, but some things easier, and chromatic concepts is definitely a big advantage that we have. Which means there's no excuse not to do it in 12 keys, because we really have a quicker job, a quicker task by doing our 12 key work on guitar. We don't have black keys and white keys to navigate. We still have to know the notes. I mean, ideally, if we're really wanting to get all of the mechanics of what's happening, we have to think of the notes as well. But in terms of the finger movements and stuff, we definitely have an easier job than what a pianist has to deal with. So do all 12 keys, please, if you want to play well on tunes, because you're going to be playing on every key on tunes, and there's no excuse not to, really. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. What else was I gonna say? Did I mention? Yeah, I mentioned the bass thing already. Okay, I'm tired. I need to go to bed. I had a long day with a gig in the morning, a rehearsal in the evening. So I'm gonna sign off for now. If you like this content, please subscribe, and I'll see you next video. Have fun practicing, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.